Good afternoon, you guys. I'm feeling chatty today, so we're going to power through and we're going to do a whole lot of videos today. Am Lee, your everyday light worker, also hip hop litigator, also millennial mama. I got a lot of monikers. I can just roll them off. We can keep going. But what I want to talk today about is how sexual harassment manifests in certain environments. And the environments that I'm going to talk about today are XY dominated environments. So, if you don't know what XY is, go back to my video that is explaining these terms. XY is a certain kind of environment where primarily one type of individual is present, and that individual has an X and a Y chromosomal pattern as opposed to a double X chromosomal pattern. So when you have these XY dominated environments, things change. Studies have shown that when you get a whole bunch of XY humans together, the average IQ of the individual drops. Something about them being together, something about the way they interact with each other, their IQ drops and they become dangerous in groups. So that is something that everyone with an XX chromosome should know. When you are dealing with XY in group, you're dealing with dangerous animals. There's just no other way to say it. That's how you really need to look at it. Like, do you hang out with a whole bunch of lions, male lions? No, you don't, because that would be dangerous, right? Well, humans really are no different. And when you get humans together in a group, especially with the XY chromosome type, it tends to be pretty dangerous. So there are certain jobs that only XY types have. Firefighter. Firefighter requires a lot of upper body strength, so you do not see typically a lot of women firefighters. They call it the brotherhood. You might know how I know this. We're going to speak in hypotheticals at this point because I don't want to get in trouble for disclosing any information that I should not, because I have worked in a number of places and everything that I am privy to is confidential information. So say hypothetically that I used to develop affirmative action plans for said places of employment, hypothetically, and say that there were certain groups at certain employers that had no women's and also no minorities. Well, that will be a problem when they're trying to submit an affirmative action plan to the feds. And I don't even think most organizations do this anymore. There used to be a requirement that an organization, in order to get federal funds, it would have to submit plans to hire women and minorities if they didn't have enough in a certain job group. There's been so much attack on that law by the conservative Supreme Court. I don't even think that is an issue anymore. I don't think organizations do that anymore. I'm not sure because I haven't done that job in many, many years. But when I did do that job, hypothetically, I had this one work group that was male dominated, right? So mostly there were only, and this is kind of a pretty exclusive group. Say this group worked in a ramp tower. Do you know what a ramp tower is? Well, I'm going to tell you. A ramp tower is the place where people call in the planes to land as they come out of the sky. And that is a male dominated field. But there happened to be this woman that needed the job. She's like, I see how much money these people make. I want this job. So I'm going to apply for it. Way, way back before it was a thing. Before there was, before it was something that, affirmative action, all of that, before it really got going. She decided, I want to do this. So, and this was back in the 70s. So she applied for the job and she got it. And she was good at it. She was good at pulling the planes down out of the sky. But she worked with all men, and they just bullied and harassed her ungodly. This went on for years, hypothetically. So one day, you can only bully and harass someone for so long before they just flip the freak out. So one day, and this was in the early 2000s, this person just had enough, and she starts going off on this person, XY person in the ramp tower, for something that he said or did that was not even that major. It was just that she'd had enough. There had been years and years and years of being bullied, being treated differently, being, having just really petty, stupid things, being called names, having lunch stolen, things like this. This is what happens when women infiltrate all male environments. The men, for whatever reason, get, I'm not supposed to say that, the XYs get really, really threatened when the XXs infiltrate male-dominated environments. And it's worse. It's much worse. And really, this is true for anyone who happens to be a minority in an environment. Wherever you are a minority, it could be that you're crack in an all blight environment. It could be that you're an XX in a predominantly XY environment. If you are the minority, you are going to be treated abysmally because, I don't know, people are going to people. That's all I can tell you about that. People are going to people. So after taking decades of horrific treatment, she rages out and she's chasing and she's screaming and she's crying with this guy in the ramp tower. And he's running away from her because he, I guess, didn't know what else to do. He didn't know how erratic she would become. But it was something that caused a huge, huge problem because ramp towers are a pretty serious place. It's where people are trying to pull in planes out of the sky correctly. And if they don't, those planes will crash into buildings or other planes. And the fire that would result from that would be beyond catastrophic. I mean, a plane fire is not like no normal fire. So what happened as a result of this is someone, I wonder who, someone was called in to put this workplace back together again after that incident. And it's difficult. It is difficult putting workplaces back together after something so extraordinary and egregious happens. Now, ramp tower controllers are very skilled professionals, and they often belong to unions. I don't know if this is still the case. I'm speaking from an early 2000 experience that I have knowledge of. So when someone is extremely skilled and they're in a union, they're not easy to get rid of. You have to kind of work with the employees and work it out, whatever the issue is, because they have rights that most employees, quite honestly, in America do not have. So I live in Virginia, and what I've often had to tell people is Virginia is an at-will employment state. That means that you can be fired at any time and for any reason unless you have an employment contract that says different. And most people don't. So most people are shocked to learn that you really don't have a right to work. And at-will employment states also call it right to work states. Like they're always coming up with these euphemisms. It's a right to work state, right? You've got a right to work. And it makes people think that they have rights that they don't really have. Because all a right to work state means is that you have the right to work. You can say, okay, I'm going to work for you, but you can quit at any time. That's what right to work means. The converse of that is that you can be fired at any time, and that does happen. And employees do not have the same kind of bargaining power that employers have. So often that works to the disadvantage of the employee. I hate whenever I tell people this, they're so shocked and they're so dismayed and they're so upset. But, you know, I'm just going to keep it real with you. That's what I do. So when this particular XX person went through this, she wasn't fired, and this was an organization that had enough resources to hire someone to come in and try and fix the problem. But most organizations do not have those kind of resources, and they don't care to work with an employee that exhibits that kind of behavior. So even if you were harassed and bullied and just had all kind of horrible things happening to you for years, even if that is the case, if most employees, especially most XX employees, if they were to flip out like this XX employee, they would lose their job, even though they had a reason for doing what it is that they did. So these are stories from the trenches. That is another story about sexual harassment and misogyny. And just to let people out there know that the playing field is no way level. It's in no way level. If you have an X and X in your chromosomal pattern, you are definitely going to be treated worse at work. Now, if you're blight and you have an X and X in your chromosomal pattern, you'll try to leverage that, right? You'll be like, yeah, I might be XX, but I'm blight. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And there are certain ways that blight people, especially when they have the XX in their chromosomal patterns, are going to leverage being blight, especially when it comes to minority XYs. So when it comes to the workplace, you have blight XX and minority XYs kind of combating with each other. They're vying for each other for power, but they both, and this is why it can be extremely tragic for the crack XX woman or the non-blight. You don't have to be crack, but you if you are non-blight, you still are going to get a lot of harassment and oppression from minority XY and blight XX. I'm just keeping it real with you. Just keeping it real. So you will know. So you will know what you're dealing with and why, and that no, you are not crazy. This is what is happening. You are definitely being treated horrifically as opposed to other people that you work with. Like I said, I got 30 years experience in this. Next, I'm going to do a video on the federal employment process because a lot of people want that information. I have that information. It is so god-awful boring. I don't want to finish those videos, but I am going to do at least one video on that today. All right? Peace. I'll see you later. We'll talk about these feds and their insane process that is really just meant to tire you out and not give you any kind of justice. I'm just keeping it real. You heard it from me. I have fought many a battle in that ring, so I know of what I speak. But keep listening, stay woke, and for those of you who are doing it, keep fighting that good fight. Okay? All right. Peace. Emily, your everyday light worker.